You're 8 years old. To everyone else, this house looks like a mansion. To your family, it's simply the property. Nobody here ever says, "We're rich." That sentence would sound almost embarrassing in this house. The woman who's made your breakfast every morning since you were born smiles as she sets down your plate. You know her first name. You've never learned if she's an employee or practically family. At school, classmates ask what your dad does for work. You don't know how to answer, because nobody at home ever talks about work. Not because there isn't any, because the fortune became bigger than any one person's career decades ago. And without even realizing it, you've already learned the first rule of old money. Real wealth never feels the need to introduce itself. Money that constantly announces itself usually hasn't been around long enough to stop needing to. Age 14 boarding school. 2 hours from home. Your classmates carry surnames that show up in history books. Nobody talks about summer homes here. Everyone already has one. Nobody talks about tuition. It was paid before your acceptance letter even arrived. The richest kid in school wears the same faded sweater every Tuesday. His watch belonged to his grandfather. Nothing here screams luxury. Somehow, everything whispers it. That's when you notice something. The kids desperate to look wealthy usually aren't. Status inside old money isn't bought. It's inherited. Then you meet Daniel, scholarship student, first person in his family to ever set foot on this campus. Every exam feels like survival to him. You admire him. But another feeling shows up too, one you're almost ashamed of, pity. Not because he's poor, because he's fighting for a floor you never had to earn. Privilege isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's invisible, even to the person standing on it. Age 21. A thick envelope arrives. Not from a bank, from a law firm. Most 21-year-olds inherit a watch, maybe some cash. You inherit paperwork. Your grandmother, before she passed, placed part of the fortune into an irrevocable trust. Not last year, not before college. Back in 1959, decades before your parents were even adults. You always assumed your family simply had money. Now you learn the stranger truth. Nobody actually owns it. They protect it. A vineyard in France, an office building in Chicago. Shares bought decades ago. Everything spread across dozens of legal structures. Nothing sits in one person's name. You ask the obvious question. If I wanted my share today, could I just sell it? The room goes quiet. There is a process, the attorney says. There is always a process. Every dollar locked inside that trust is a dollar you can't move on your own timeline. In exchange for one thing the family decided, generations ago, mattered more than your freedom: permanence. The money that's legally yours turns out to be the least free money you'll ever touch. Age 26. Your first family office meeting. Not to speak, just to watch. A long table, leather chairs, no excitement, no celebration. Just quiet professionals discussing hundreds of millions of dollars, the way most families discuss grocery lists. An investment strategist, a tax attorney, an estate planner, a woman whose only job is protecting the family name from headlines. Together, they oversee almost $400 million. Real estate, private equity, municipal bonds, stakes bought 30 years ago and never sold. Nobody in the room talks about getting rich. That chapter ended long ago. Now the only objective is staying rich. And that's a completely different game. The founder of this fortune made reckless bets. He had nothing to lose. You can't take those same risks because you have everything to lose and nowhere to rebuild from. For a self-made man, hitting zero is a setback. For an heir, hitting zero is a story that follows your name forever. That's why old money moves so carefully. It can look from the outside like it isn't moving at all. Age 29. Your cousin forgets that. Brilliant, charismatic, the kind of person who convinces every room he sees the future first. An AI startup, a flawless pitch, exciting projections. The family agrees. Not because they believe in startups, because they believe in family. $6 million leaves the discretionary fund. 18 months later, it's gone. Nobody screams, nobody argues. At Thanksgiving, his name barely comes up. That silence hurts more than anger ever could. Old money rarely punishes with emotion. It punishes with lost trust. And once trust disappears, it can take decades to earn back. Age 34. You're no longer in the audience. You're at the table now. The family council, 7 seats. The oldest member is 81, 4 meetings a year. Every decision touches people who haven't even been born yet. Investment reports, tax updates, estate planning. Then the final topic. The one that always runs longest. The next generation. Not portfolios. People. Who's ready? Who isn't? Who can be trusted? Because fortunes rarely disappear from bad investments. They disappear because of bad heirs. Your cousin speaks next. She wants out. No meetings, no votes, no obligations. Just the cash value of her share and freedom to live on her own terms. The room stays respectful. Nobody raises their voice. The trust does not allow individual buyouts, the chairman explains. The vote is held. 5 in favor of keeping the structure intact. 2 against. Request denied. A month later, she stops coming to birthdays. Then weddings. Eventually, Christmas. Nobody officially pushed her away. The system did it for them. Sometimes rules create consequences without anyone needing to become the villain. Age 42. By now, your calendar looks different. Not because you're working harder, because your responsibilities have changed. This morning you approve a $7 million donation through the Family Foundation. Its own office, its own employees, its own annual report. Hospitals, universities, museums, scholarships. Every gift creates impact. But every gift also strengthens something else. The family name. 2 years later, you walk past a new research building on a university campus. Bronze letters across the entrance spell your family's surname. Students walk by without noticing. To them, it's just another building. To you, it's something else. Your family isn't just donating money anymore. It's placing permanent markers into history. Old money doesn't only compound wealth. It compounds legacy. Age 51. One email changes the mood inside the family office. A journalist is investigating how the fortune was really built, nearly a century ago. Practices considered normal back then would never survive today's scrutiny. You expect a crisis meeting. Instead, nothing happens. Legal handles it. Communications prepares the response. You never even see the reply. By the time you're briefed, it's already over. That's when it hits you. Your family isn't just protecting assets anymore. It's protecting history, reputation, narrative. The fortune has grown so large that perception itself is now an asset worth defending. Sometimes the greatest investment is simply staying out of tomorrow's headlines. Age 63. Now you're the oldest person in most rooms. Your grandchildren run through the same gardens you explored decades ago. One afternoon, watching them play, you remember your own grandfather, watching you, in almost the exact same spot. Only now you understand what he was really looking for. Not intelligence, not confidence, not ambition, character. Because money magnifies whoever inherits it. A generous person becomes more generous. An arrogant person becomes unbearable. An insecure person can spend an entire fortune trying to prove something. Nobody says this out loud. Nobody has to. Every generation quietly decides, on its own, who gets to carry the family's future. Because inheriting wealth isn't the hardest part. Becoming worthy of it is. Somewhere in a city that has never heard your family's name, a 22-year-old opens his first brokerage account tonight. He deposits a few $100s. He believes that if he saves consistently and invests wisely, he can build something extraordinary. He's right. Compounding works. Discipline works. Patience works. But there's one thing he doesn't see yet. Old money wasn't built in one lifetime. It was built across many. One generation earned it. The next protected it. The next expanded it. The next sacrificed freedom to preserve stability. Another sacrificed speed for permanence. The fortune you inherited isn't the result of one brilliant investor. It's the result of thousands of ordinary decisions made correctly across decades. You were never handed a pile of money. You were handed a responsibility, a story, a system built to outlive everyone inside it. And that's the secret most people never understand about old money. The mansion, the trusts, the private schools, none of it was ever the real inheritance. The real inheritance was time. While most people spend their whole lives trying to build the first floor, you were born standing on it. He's climbing toward that floor tonight. You were simply born on top of it. And once you understand how that floor was built, you finally realize something. The wealth was never the point. The point was making sure the floor would still be there for someone 100 years from now.